Morning came, and Ada did not improve. She got worse. The kind of worse that makes a mother stop doing chores and start watching breathing. Ada's watery stool continued. Her vomiting continued. And the strength in her body started reducing like phone battery on 1%. Mama Ngozi didn't even dress properly that morning. She just kept moving between the bed and the toilet, between prayer and panic. Now, this is where real life enters the story. Because a parent doesn't only fight sickness. A parent also fights fear, money, distance, and hope. Papa Chinedu kept saying, "Let's wait a bit. It will pass." You know that sentence. That ego pass sentence we sound strong, but sometimes is just fear wearing confidence. Mama Ngozi tried to push back, but Papa Chinedu was thinking of hospital bills, transport, and that feeling of shame some people carry when they go to the clinic too early. And while they were debating, Ada was getting quieter. By late morning, neighbors started hearing that Ada was purging. And this is when the whole community entered the house, physically and spiritually, with advice. My people, welcome to the biggest school in Africa, WhatsApp University. First came Auntie Ifeoma. Auntie Ifeoma didn't knock gently. She entered like emergency consultant. She looked at Ada once and said, I know this one. It's spiritual." She said somebody was jealous of the child. Then she added the classic line, "This is not hospital matter." Mama Ngozi didn't argue. Because when a child is sick, a parent's mind becomes soft. You start accepting anything that sounds like solution. Next came one uncle with medical confidence. He said, "Give her strong antibiotics now. I have some remaining in my house." He said it the way people say, "I have charger, I have power bank." Like antibiotics are universal remote control. Then another neighbor, very serious, said, "Stop giving her water. That's why she keeps stooling." That one almost made Mama Ngozi freeze, because it sounds logical to a stressed mind. But it's wrong. Let me pause the story for 30 seconds, because this is important. Watery diarrhea does not stop because you stop water. Stopping water only helps dehydration win. It is like your generator is overheating and you decide to remove the fan because the noise is disturbing you. You didn't solve the problem. You just made it worse. Okay, back to the house. Mama Ngozi tried to give Ada small sips of water. Ada sipped, then vomited again. Mama Ngozi's eyes filled with tears, but she wiped it quickly. Because she didn't want Ada to see her fear. Ada whispered, "Mummy." Her voice was low. The kind of low voice that makes a mother's heart start beating inside her throat. Mama Ngozi asked Papa Chinedu again. She said, "Please, we need to go to the clinic." Papa Chinedu sighed, not because he didn't care, but because he was trying to balance reality. He said, "Let's try something small first." And that something small is where many families lose precious time. More advice entered. Somebody brought herbs. Bitter, dark liquid inside a bottle that had no label and plenty confidence. Another person suggested mixing salt into hot water without measurement. Another person said, "Give soft drink. It will settle the stomach." Everybody had a solution. No one had a plan. And here's the tragedy of misinformation. It comes with confidence. Truth usually comes with instructions. Mama Ngozi looked around and realized something. All these people would go back to their houses later, but she would remain with her sick child. So she made a decision. She told Papa Chinedu, "Even if we don't have enough money, we will go. Let's borrow. Let's owe. But let's go." Papa Chinedu hesitated again. Then Auntie Ifeoma added petrol to fire. She said, "Before you go to clinic, let's go and see Baba. He knows these things." And because Mama Ngozi was desperate, she didn't reject it immediately. So instead of going straight to the clinic, they took a detour. They carried Ada outside. Ada could not walk well. Papa Chinedu had to support her. And this is a small realistic detail. When a strong father has to hold his child like that, pride begins to crack. They arrived at Barber Solution. Barber Solution's place looked like a movie set. Red cloth, small bell, strong smell of incense, people sitting outside with serious faces like they were waiting for audition. Barber Solution came out and started talking before anyone finished explaining. He said, "This one, it is not ordinary." And when a desperate parent hears not ordinary, fear becomes 10 times bigger. Barber Solution rang bell. He started shouting words that sounded powerful. He commanded the sickness to come out. Now, let me say this carefully. Prayer is not the enemy. People can pray. But prayer should not replace urgent action when a child is dehydrating, because dehydration doesn't wait for anyone to finish shouting. While Barber Solution was shouting, Ada's head dropped slightly. Mama Ngozi noticed first. She said, "Ada." Ada didn't answer. She touched Ada's face. The skin looked dry. The eyes looked tired. Then Ada's body went weak. She slumped. That moment didn't feel like Nollywood anymore. It felt like real life. Mama Ngozi screamed. People started shouting, "Bring water." Somebody shouted, "Hold her, hold her." Papa Chinedu lifted his daughter, and for the first time, his voice changed. He shouted, "We are going to the clinic now. Not later, not tomorrow, now." They rushed to the road to find transport. But it was not easy. The day was moving into evening. Transport was not waiting for them like film. They begged a motorcycle rider. Mama Ngozi held Ada tightly in front, Papa Chinedu behind, the rider speeding. The road was rough. Dust-dented eyes. Every bump made Mama Ngozi tighten her grip. She kept whispering, "Ada, open your eyes. Please, open your eyes." Ada's mouth looked dry. Mama Ngozi tried to rub her lips with small water, but Ada couldn't swallow well. Now hear this educational point. When a child has watery diarrhea and vomiting, the goal is to replace fluid early. But at this stage, Ada was already far gone into dehydration. They didn't know the name for it. They only knew fear. Night came fully by the time they reached the clinic area. The clinic signboard looked ordinary, but to Mama Ngozi, it looked like hope. They carried Ada inside. The nurse on duty looked up, and in that moment, the nurse did not start shouting. She did not start blaming. She started asking questions calmly, the way professionals do when they are measuring danger. The nurse asked, "How long has she been passing watery stool?" Mama Ngozi answered with a shaky voice, "Since last night." Then the nurse asked the question that hit the room like a slap, because it sounded simple, but it was deadly serious. The nurse asked, "Has she been urinating today?" Papa Chinedu opened his mouth, and no sound came out, because he didn't check. He didn't know it mattered. Mama Ngozi looked at her husband's face and knew something was wrong. The nurse repeated it, slower this time, as if she was giving them one last chance to understand the seriousness. "Has she urinated today?" And before anyone could answer properly, the nurse asked another one, "Did you give ORS?" Mama Ngozi blinked. Papa Chinedu frowned. They had heard the word before, but they didn't use it. The nurse stepped closer to Ada and looked at her condition again. Then the nurse sighed, not loudly, but deeply. And she said something quietly that made Mama Ngozi feel cold. She said, "This is severe dehydration." Mama Ngozi grabbed the edge of the table. Papa Chinedu stood like a man whose legs suddenly forgot how to work. The nurse turned and called for urgent help. And this is where episode 2 ends. Because in episode 3, you will see what happened next. You will hear the sentence the nurse asked them. You will see how one delay can turn a treatable sickness into a tragedy. And most importantly, you will learn exactly what to do in the first 10 minutes. What to give, what not to give, and how to make local ORS with sugar and salt if sachet is not available. So please, don't miss episode 3. Because that part is not just story. That part is survival knowledge.